Hey, what's up everybody? So today's video, I wanted to update you guys on how the Dodge Dakota RT 5.9 liter is doing with that new Mopar M1 intake manifold. So I told you guys I would let you know all the little quirks and give you guys the first-hand experience on how things are going. So let's get into it. So far, I still haven't configured my intake setup. And as you guys know, if you guys been following along, we are putting a Pro Charger on this. So it's going to be pretty soon before we'll have all the piping and all that and whatnot. So anything we do is gonna be temporary, but the K&N intake that we had before wasn't gonna work because it was off center. I think there's probably a way you could get it to work, but we might as well just fast forward and get this on here. So as for what's going on with this, you guys know that I had to have a different throttle position sensor. So part of the thing is when I switched over everything, we ended up using this throttle position sensor. So I double checked the calibration on it. I may have just tightened it up a tiny bit. So it is at I think it's at 0.75 volts when it's just sitting there and your foot isn't touching the gas and you're not holding it open. So when it's fully closed, it's around 0.75 volts, which in my research is about where you want it to be. So I double checked that, verified it, maybe tightened it up just a tiny little bit. But what was happening is the truck was kind of, it was shifting too soon. So it wouldn't fully wind the tack out to where it is right now. So it shifts right now around 5,200 with that Mopar Performance PCM in there. And it wasn't doing that. It was shifting at like 4,000. Sometimes it would shift at 45. Sometimes it would wind out all the way to 52. And I was messing with the TV cable, the throttle valve cable that goes to the transmission. Because as you guys know, that is a very important cable. And it does determine when and where the transmission is going to shift, as well as full converter lockup and just a bunch of different stuff. So anyways, I've been messing with that quite a bit as well, trying to get it dialed in. And the reason why I've had to mess with it is because, as you guys know, we had a whole custom bracket set up and I had to put it on here on a new peg, and everything here is new. So any of the settings that I had before when the transmission and truck was working perfectly with the stock setup, none of that stuff carried over. We have to completely recalibrate it because all of this geometry and all of the positioning is different. So I ended up tightening, and so here, let's see if I can explain this in the best way possible. So this is your TV cable. And what happens is when you step on the gas like this, it pulls this TV cable out. So it extends it, letting the transmission know, hey, this dude's in the truck stepping on the gas right now. You know, we might need to drop a gear, etc. So what I was doing was, since it wasn't maintaining RPM, logic would tell you that if you're full wide open throttle, like you are on the gas all the way fully extended, and it's short shifting, this isn't coming out all the way. So the transmission doesn't think you're flooring it and maybe thinks you're half throttle, so it's short shifting it. So I kept gradually adjusting it. How you do it is you pull this white clip out, so it kind of just unclips from there. You slide this out, and then you move the inner portion of this mechanism. So this retaining clip holds this plastic sleeve in place, and I can maybe get a separate video for you guys on that. But anyways, you're essentially moving this around so that the cable is more tight or less tight depending on where you're at. So if it's super loose, then you'd want to tighten it so that the transmission knows you're at wide open throttle when you're at wide open throttle, and so on and so forth. So anyways, it was short shifting. So I kept trying to tighten the cable to get it to actually shift closer to the 5,200. And it wouldn't always do it. It would do it here and there, and it was kind of sporadic. So it was a little bit weird. And then I stumbled across some information that said, if you're having some issues, the TPS, throttle position sensor, which I just showed you, can also factor into your transmission and shifting and whatnot. So they recommended, if you're having some issues, to do a hard reset. So what I did was I took the negative terminal back off, and they said to hold the ignition as if you're trying to start the vehicle for about 20 seconds, just to completely drain all the power out of the whole vehicle and the PCM. So I did that, and lo and behold, now it's working fine. I don't know why. I don't know if it was coincidence, or maybe that actually does do stuff on these older vehicles, but now it's working the way we want it to. And coincidentally, I am backing down from how tight I put the TV cable, because right now it's like a hot rod. It's aggressive the way it drives. It'll hold the RPM longer, but it's almost a little bit too much. So I'm actually loosening the TV cable just slightly so that the transmission calms down a little bit, because right now if you touch the gas a little bit, it's like ready to go. It wants to downshift and it thinks we're about to race when I'm barely, well, not barely, but when you're getting on it, I think it's ahead. It thinks that I'm like fully flooring it when maybe you're 3/4 or maybe you're a half throttle, and it thinks you're 3/4 throttle. So I have to loosen the cable just ever so slightly. So I'm just playing with that in small increments and adjustments and fine tuning it. One other thing that you guys might have seen that I kind of just skipped over is I ended up putting a return spring. So see this spring here? I put an extra spring on it, and I'm going to probably reconfigure this a little bit better, but this seems to be doing the job. So if you guys recall, what I was saying is on the last video, right before we finished after the M1 intake, is the throttle was actually staying open a little bit. And as soon as you turn off the engine, it would go back. It would work smoothly in operation with the vehicle off, but there's enough vacuum in the, I guess, the intake manifold that it'll actually hang and it'll hold it open. So I needed a bit more spring pressure. I went ahead and I just got these Dorman help springs. I'll link these in the description below if you guys are interested in this. It comes with a variety of them, but those did the job. I just hooked it on and it actually feels better. The pedal felt, honestly, when we first did it, it felt super light on the gas pedal. So it's kind of like a 2-stage. So the first set of butterflies, I can't show you guys right now since the air hat's on, but the first set of butterflies, it was like super light, and then you would hit that second butterfly, like, so there's kind of 3 butterflies on mine. And when it would hit that second portion, then the pedal would get stiff, and it was really light in the beginning. So rather than try to respring the whole throttle body, I just put on a little assist spring, and that issue went away. So just be careful if you guys end up getting into this whole scenario, because it can get a little sketchy. The truck was hanging at like $2,000. Like, there's that little bump here that you see on the lift. When I would touch the gas just a little bit, just to get the front tires over that, the truck would hang at like $2,000, and you were like on the brakes, and you know, the wall's right here. So it gets interesting. So if you guys go down this path and you put something like that on, just be aware that hanging might be an issue. So, or if you're just driving, it would almost be like you had cruise control. But enough of me talking. I want to get out. I'm going to show you guys what this thing is like to drive with the intake. No tune on it except for the Mopar Performance PCM. So let's go out before the sun goes down, and I'll show you guys what it's like to drive this thing now. It's a little bit more peppy. It's pretty good. Let me show you. Okay, so here's just kind of normal driving, but if I put it to the floor, she gets down. So part of the thing I was describing is if you don't, before it wouldn't downshift. Like right now, if I put it to the floor, it'll actually kick down all the way. So there we go. And it'll take it all the way to 52. And honestly, it feels pretty good, and we haven't done anything different. So, I mean, besides just the intake, that's pretty much the only thing we've changed. We haven't done any tuning or anything like that, though. Literally the only difference is just that intake manifold, but it definitely feels a lot better. As far as down low, I don't seem to see any difference, honestly, in down low power. It all seems the same to me. And obviously you can see it's downshifting all the way, or upshifting. It's in full overdrive lockup right now, so. And just to demonstrate again, if I put it to the floor right now, like, look at how much she gets up and goes. It has a ton of high end now. And I let off before I decided to shift, but it would have taken it to the 52 or just over $5,000. And as far as just like regular street manners, it's pretty good too. So I'll just show you guys. I think I have it almost dialed. I could maybe loosen it up just a tad, but it's shifting good. Like, watch. It's about 2. I don't know if I can get it here, but I really like the way it's shifting. Like, it didn't jump like that before. I mean, it's not crazy fast, but see, it shifts. Shifts good. I think there's a big dip up here. I gotta watch out with this loweredness lately, but I'll show you guys a couple more pulls, and I'm still, like I said, I'm still fine tuning everything, but I'm pretty happy with the way it's shifting right now. Okay, so if I get on it, just casually, shifts at 4 grand at maybe about 30 miles an hour. Shifted the second time around 3, around 55. And that's just me pushing maybe almost halfway. So if I put it to the floor right here, she moves. I mean, she's finally starting to do what she's supposed to do. One thing I do really like is the throttle response. Like, it didn't have that before, which is just, I think it's just a sheer volume of air that is just letting in. And I think the other thing that a lot of people are still curious about is how the fan's doing. So that's where my temperature gauge sits with a 180-degree thermostat and my electric fan. So it hasn't crept over that yet. If anything changes, I mean, I'll let you guys know, but so far that fan's keeping it cool. Okay, so there you guys have it. It's running, it's driving, it's shifting pretty decent. I could probably do a little bit more tweaking. I think the cable, if anything, is maybe a tiny bit tight, but I don't mind it. Driving around partial throttle, it's still manageable. It's just a little bit more fun in my opinion, a little bit more sporty, but seems to be working good. If anything changes, I will keep you guys up to date. The game plan is to try to make it to the track here shortly and also get a tune in it. So the next video you'll probably see is me taking a read of the truck with HP tuners, and we'll start getting into some tuning. And also I'm gonna try to make the 8th mile drag strip as well this week. So if all goes as planned, we'll take this thing to the strip. I don't know if it'll be tuned, naturally aspirated just yet, or if we just are gonna take it with the stock tune. Also let me know in the comments below which one you guys would prefer to see. Do you wanna see it go down the drag strip just with the stock tune from Mopar, or do you guys wanna see it with the intake and a tune on it? Let me know, give me your feedback down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll keep you guys posted on the next video, and we'll see you then.